Crimson Desert is a relaxing game, right? Well, of course it is. And if you don't think so, well, get ready to see 2 days of me living the best life in the world of Pywell. Whether it's enjoying a festival or exploring the world by horse, I'm going to be living the ultimate relaxing life in Crimson Desert. I awoke on the morning of day 1 heading outside of my tent. At this moment, the sun was just starting to rise above the horizon. It's clear that I had woken up at the perfect time. This was definitely a great start to what would hopefully be a relaxing day. The first step on my agenda today was heading over to make some food. In a world where you never know what's going to happen, a solid breakfast is very important. Therefore, I ended up making a grilled apple. Before I officially got my day started though, I had a plan. Every morning I love to take in the amazing view that our camp offers. This is easily the best way to start my mornings. After all of that though, I really had to get my day going now. And to start it out, I had a chore. That's right, per camp duties, I had to cut down a couple of trees. You know though, out of all of the things I could be doing right now, this was pretty relaxing. All I had to do was chop, chop, chop the wood. And after finishing it off with a couple more trees, I was done. All I had to do now was give all the wood to Carl. He was in charge of everything at the camp. Surprisingly, the next thing on my to-do list was collect some flowers. Now that might seem pretty dumb, but these are actually super important. With these, I can craft polymer pills, which will revive me in a time of need. Therefore, a key part of my routine was picking any that grew. By the time I was done with this task, I realized this was going to be an amazing weather day. That got me excited to finally head out of the camp for the main task of the day. Today I would be heading into Hernand. As I got closer, I was getting pretty excited. See, there was something special going on today. The Hernand festival was officially underway, and as soon as I entered, I saw it. Yeah, it's safe to say this was going to be great to see. The decorations around town made everything feel so festive, and many spectacular performers lined the streets. This was some awesome entertainment to take in. As I made my way even further into town, I even saw a giant one. And to be honest, I couldn't quite tell if I thought this was creepy or cool. But besides all the festivities outside, I had some actual places I wanted to head to in town. The first place I headed into was the inn. What ended up catching my eye though were these guys arm wrestling. You know, I couldn't let them have all the fun. I was gonna have a go at this. And to be honest, I was a little bit nervous when I noticed my opponent was a knight. As soon as the round started though, I locked in. And within seconds I had him pinned to the ground.
Just got lucky.
After a humble win, I decided to end on an up note. The next thing I came in here for was some food. This inn had a great selection of good options, so of course I was going to have to indulge in something here. After all of that though, I had a great idea. On my way to that idea, I got a little sidetracked when I found a dog. Of course I was going to have to stop and pet him. You know, maybe one day I'd get a dog of my own. That would certainly make my days even better. Okay, getting back on track now though, I was at the place I wanted to head to. With the festival going on, this place was hosting an archery tournament. I came here because I really wanted to check it out. As I was watching from the crowd though, I couldn't help but realize that I could do this myself. Therefore, I came up with the crazy idea to enter myself in this competition. And to be honest, I was a little nervous when I realized my opponent looked very skilled. And certainly, I was not wrong as he was absolutely dusting me so far. At this point, it was 7-3, I had to lock in. Let's just keep it brief and say I absolutely did that as I finally tied up the score. At this point, whoever made the next shot would win. And guess what happened? I lost. I was not going to end on a down note though, so I came in for round 2. I certainly was handling business this time though, so I ended with a win. Let's just say that redemption felt pretty good. On my way out of this area, I noticed a fight. This looked entertaining enough, so I joined the crowd. The only problem though is I felt super left out watching it from here. That gave me the idea to see if I could join in. Well, I think the only way to describe this situation was awkward. And apparently I had ruined the mood of the entire crowd because they all left. That little kick was definitely not my best move. At this point though, I headed back to town because I had a couple more things to do before I left. It was time to run some errands. I quick purchased some goods from my favorite vendors. And lastly, I had one special thing to get. In this store here, I was able to buy a fishing rod. This was going to be my first time trying one out and I couldn't wait. So yeah, that was my final plan for this first day. Catch some food for dinner. Eventually I made my way down towards the river. Unexpectedly, there was a surprise waiting. Bandits. It was time to fight. I was not gonna let these guys put a damper on my chill day. In just seconds, I took them all out with ease. So that is why you do not mess with me if I want to fish. But I guess now, since my spot was clear, it was time to see what I would catch. This was my first cast ever, so I was really gonna have to learn here. In no time, I felt a bite and the fight was on. Unfortunately, shortly after though, I lost the fish. And that wasn't a one-time thing, it kept happening. I quickly realized that I was fishing in too shallow of water, that's why my line kept snapping. Therefore, I moved myself over to a much deeper pool in the river, knowing I'd have better luck. And thankfully, I was correct, because on my first cast, I was able to bring in a fish. This was my first ever catch, and I couldn't have been happier. Even though it was a small guy, I decided to keep it. And on my very next cast, I brought in yet another fish. Now that I had two, I figured that was enough for dinner. So just like that, it was time to finally head back to camp. So far today had been very productive but relaxing. And by the time I made it back, I was very hungry. So I was super excited to cook up these fish. This was going to be a great meal to end the day. After my quick dinner, I was feeling very tired and I had a big day tomorrow, so it was time for an early bedtime. As I awoke the next morning, I was very excited. I had slept in a bit today, so I was fully refreshed and ready for an adventure. Before that though, I made a quick breakfast of toasted grains, and then I attended to my camp chore of the day. Today, I was put in charge of the cleaning. That meant I was on broom duty. Yeah, so far this is not the chill adventure I was looking for today. But you know, it really wasn't all that bad. I kind of enjoyed it. And after I was done, I was just even more eager to get out into the world. The sole plan of today was just to explore and experience everything I could find. That all started with a beautiful ride on my horse. Eventually though, I decided it was time to get off the trail and pave my own path. The first obstacle in my way was this rock cliff. This was the perfect spot to test out my climbing skills. And let's just say, they did not disappoint. Once I made it up, I ended up noticing something though. Right above me was some type of ore. At a closer glance, it looked like emerald, but I had to find out. It was time to pull out my pickaxe. Apparently this mineral was called epidote, and since this was my first time finding it, I made sure to mine it all. After that cool discovery, I decided to test out another form of travel. This method involved a tree. I was gonna use it as a slingshot. Yeah, this was definitely gonna be my favorite way to move around. That was way quicker and more fun than just climbing. My next discovery came shortly after. This looked like another ore or mineral to mine. After breaking it up with my pickaxe, I realized it was iron. So just like the last one, I made sure to get it all. After the iron, I was back to the air. It was truly the best way to see this world from a bird's eye perspective. While continuing on my route, I came across a suspension bridge. It seemed like every step I took, there was something new cool waiting for me. And that trend continued as I found what looked like a military fort. This place had a gate, but you know, that surely was not gonna stop me. In my adventure today, I wanted to see everything. After traveling for a while, I ended up stumbling upon something that looked really cool. This place was called the Scalastone Institute. And while I was here, I of course had to check it out. This statue I saw in particular was a great find. Since I had spent the entire day exploring so far though, I was getting tired. Honestly, I was glad I found this institute because there was no better place to relax. At this point, I was all ready to be done for the day until something major caught my eye. Yeah, I couldn't leave here without heading to the top of this thing. On my way to the tower, I ended up stumbling upon what looked like the dining hall. And honestly, there was no better time for this since I was really hungry. I had to fuel up before my giant climb. Like I just mentioned, this was no small feat. Getting to the top involved thousands of steps. After about 10 minutes, I had just only reached the base of this thing, and from down here, it looked absolutely massive. The inside of this place was so cool though. Instead of having to climb more stairs, I was surprised with an elevator ride. So far, the anticipation of the view was getting insane. And after what felt like never-ending steps, I finally reached the top. But as soon as I got up here, I was met with something completely unexpected. This was an abyss gate, and I was about to enter. Eventually, I saw the world again. This time though, I was probably in the coolest place I had found yet. That's right, I was on a sky island miles above the main ground. I couldn't believe that my chill adventure today had led me to something so amazing. I mean, from here I could literally see the whole world, including the town I was just at yesterday. To end my adventure today, there was only one last thing to do. That was to jump. The feeling of falling from the sky head first towards the ground felt amazing. Being in the air made me realize how chill these past 2 days were. From going to a festival, going fishing, mining new ores, and finally falling out of the sky, I felt I had truly found what it meant to live the chill life in Crimson Desert. After a long, long walk, I eventually made it back to camp. After these 2 chill days, I was ready to get back to my usual life of fighting bosses after this. It was time to head to bed.